Well, hello, YouTubers. Welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now with astrologer Babula Clement and myself, Cheryl Gottschall. And this episode, we're going to be talking about this super duper duper full moon in Aries, as well as many other things, well, we'll just let it all fall out because we're going to have Jupiter retrograde in Gemini as well that we'll talk about. So look, Babula, take it away.
Okay, well, I think in the lead up to the full moon, which will occur on October the 17th, many of you will be aware that Jupiter recently turned retrograde, which is normal, happens every year. Will be retrograde for 4.5 to 5 months, around about 5 months. Turned retrograde at 21 degrees of Gemini. It won't go back into Taurus, the previous sign. It's staying permanently in Gemini. But it's an interesting one. When Jupiter goes retrograde, we're having to do, it can be very helpful actually for, reviewing and revising our opinions about things and our beliefs about things, or having a deeper dive into various sources of information. Like that's happened to me just recently, just in the last few days. I was doing some astrological research on a particular person's chart, and just some things I found had a real impact on me, and it shifted my perception quite significantly. And I attributed that actually to Jupiter going retrograde. Like, been looking at this individual's chart many, many times, but I saw it in a different light. And it shifted something actually inside of me. It was an energetic shift. So that's the kind of thing that can happen. You come across information that in the past you might have rejected or not considered, and you have to kind of rethink or have a closer look or check in again.
Yeah, I find that too. Having moon in Gemini myself, but it's really, I've got a love of language and reading and writing, communicating. And with that Jupiter, I've found that when Jupiter went into Gemini, I found that I wanted to start exploring more or being more curious about a broader range of things, right? Broader range of subjects. And now that it's with it going retrograde, I'm going back and looking at things I've already explored.
Right.
And it's going, oh yeah, I did that years ago. Now that's really interesting. Yeah. And why am I really interested in that now?
Right.
It's sort of drilling down on things too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then something about that information or area that you're into previously, some of it might actually come forward in a way that's really kind of relevant to now, even.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was also thinking too this morning that, with Jupiter in Gemini, it's an ideal time to dive into learning a new language, do you think?
Would be, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 It's a really, I think it's enables us to pick up linguistic skills more easily than at other times when Jupiter's in Gemini.
Yeah, I think so. And as you say that, it makes me think of, someone going on a trip overseas to another country, another culture with a different language. If they've got Jupiter and Gemini, they're going to be very keen to learn some of the language before they go. Whereas somebody else might go, oh, I'll manage, I'll cope, I'll just pick up a few words. But yeah, Jupiter and Gemini will want to be able to get a grasp of at least enough of a language, and that love of learning and having, many, many different experiences and sources of information.
Yeah. And just as I was saying to you before we started recording, that I've always equated amethyst to the planet Jupiter, the purple color, right? I'm just going to show some because it comes up really sparkly under the light.
Gorgeous.
Here. Yeah. And that color is one that's been, I've read various studies on color psychology and how the walls of rooms in jails have been painted a violet or a purple or a lilac or various shades, lavender, and it's calmed people down. It's calmed them down. And the same if you put it in a waiting room, it makes people
Mm.
far less impatient.
Mm.
Here's my little tower of
They're
amethyst.
gorgeous.
Wow, yeah.
That's stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's really amazing how it sort of relates into, because when Jupiter's retrograding in Gemini, it's a sense to me of just slow down a bit, not
Yes.
skimming the surface, just slow down enough to go a little bit deeper.
Yes, because Gemini is a very quick energy.
Mm,
It's super quick. And with Jupiter in there, it's really been supercharged, with, very speedy energy. And it can just be, quickly skimming like a dragonfly, skimming over the surface.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I mean, you can look at a lot of information, but you can't really take it in that deeply and process it and utilize it to the value that it equates to when,
Yeah.
just Gemini by itself. With Jupiter there, it's like, be patient with this information.
Yeah, indeed, especially while it's retrograde. And truly Jupiter's, even though it, will obviously expand things and make things, bring an increase to something, at its highest expression, it's about the quest for truth, isn't it? And
Right.
higher purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
So all this information, the question for Jupiter, particularly now while it's retrograde, well, how do I glean the real meaning out of this? Is it just a bunch of data for the sake of data, or what's the real meaning in this,
Yeah. Is it,
Yeah.
is this my belief or what are the facts? Does,
Yes,
does my belief equate to what's to the factual expression of this, or, to the reality of it, or, you know, but on the other hand, it's like you can gather a lot of facts, but you can't derive meaning unless you go deep with it too.
that's right.
So it's sort of like a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing about Jupiter in Gemini is one of the downsides or challenges of it, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so it's said to be in its detriment in Gemini, which is, these are old traditional ways of understanding things, said to be in its detriment in Gemini because of the tendency in Gemini to move very quickly through a lot of information really fast.
Mm.
And I have experienced sometimes people with Jupiter and Gemini can hear someone say something and then they take it on board as truth without actually questioning it themselves or looking more deeply, just like hearsay. Oh, that's true then. So we
Mm.
have to watch that one. And particularly while it's retrograde now, it's a deeper questioning of, what we're hearing, what we're reading.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about now that Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini, could it sort of make us stop and look at where have we overcommitted?
Absolutely.
I'm very familiar with that. I think you are too.
Oh, absolutely. And Gemini really doesn't like missing out on anything. It wants to experience everything.
Yeah, very curious.
So yeah, absolutely. And it's a fun sign. It likes to have fun, likes to enjoy life and make connections really quickly and easily. But yeah, it can also then, particularly with Jupiter and Gemini, suffer from just too much. It's just so Jupiter going retrograde is a bit sort of sobering. We have to sort of recalibrate a little, and make a few adjustments to that.
Yeah. I also find that that Gemini energy, it's a real sense of restlessness.
Very,
I get that.
yeah,
So I think with Jupiter going retrograde there, it's sort of like just stopping and reflecting on what we've already learned, because I often find because I run workshops myself, people can be workshop junkies.
yes.
Right. So it's really about, well, what have you learned and why do you want to keep learning so much? Let's just have a good look at this and let's use what you already know.
That's great. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It can be a very good time too for preparing information. Like if someone's a writer in any way, whether it's novels or technical work or whatever, this can be a great time for preparing, or you have lectures to give,
Mm,
really doing the work, behind the scenes in the background, which is a very retrograde sort of feel. gathering all the information, thinking about it, how you're going to organize it, and then in some months, which will be into next year, early part of next year, as it goes forward, somehow that body of information that's been processed is ready to come forward and get expressed and communicate.
Yeah, I think so.
So it can be very, very useful for that.
Yeah. I also think that what was I going to say? Oh, yes. Gemini can be involved a lot in casual small talk. Like my mother used to be at the bus stop and just talk to anybody who was there, right? And just about surface talk.
Yeah.
But I think that Jupiter in Gemini, and probably when it's retrograde, it sort of engages us with more profound, to look into profound philosophical ideas. What do you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes we might find ourselves having a moment where there's just a lot of chit-chatting around, and we might feel compelled to probably bring something up that's a bit more profound and meaningful that can change the course of the conversation, because you've actually gone there.
Yes.
Instead of just keeping it on the surface,
It's
kind of socially, nothing wrong with, just being socially engaged with people on a certain level. I think that's completely fine. But, there might be a few moments where we go, well, actually, have you heard about da 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 da, and open up a whole other area of discussion, that's a bit more meaningful.
So one of the other things going on in the background, as we all know, is Pluto has now gone direct, right?
Yes, dear Pluto.
5 weeks to go, I think it is, until it goes.
I know. It's like this, in the astrological world, or anyone who knows anything about astrology, there's this sort of momentous event on the horizon. So yes, Pluto on October the 12th, which is just a couple of days ago from when we're recording this, turned direct after being retrograde in the last couple of degrees of Capricorn, the last degree really of Capricorn. Turned direct at 29 degrees and 38 minutes, which is 29.5 degrees. And because there's 30 degrees in a sign, that's at the last breath of this sign. So he's still moving slowly. It takes a while, particularly for these slow moving outer planets, when they change direction. It's still pretty much sitting right at that point. But slowly over the coming days and the next week or 2 or 3, it'll pick up momentum, finally complete its long process through the sign of Capricorn. Remember, it moved into Capricorn in 2008. World economic crash happened. It's taken all this time. And then we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn in 2020. Life has not been the same since that pivotal moment, February 2020. And now it's coming to the end of this sign. So that's tremendously significant, and it will move into Aquarius. And I've always been fascinated by the radical difference of energy between signs that neighbor each other in the zodiac.
Yes.
So we go from Capricorn, a very strong earth sign, to Aquarius, which is all, it is an air sign of the intellect, of the mind, of consciousness, of the people. So this is like Pluto's last ditch effort in the sign of Capricorn since 2008 to expose and reveal from the shadows the more negative side of Capricorn.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is all about absolute total domination and control of everything.
In that anorectic degree is so powerful, isn't it? So I think it tends to go into that shadow. It's shadow because it's the last,
That's right. It's like, I've only got 5 weeks now to finish this piece.
Yeah,
and that's what it's like for those of us who have planets in our birth chart at 29 degrees. Like karmically, we're doing some cleaning up and some completion of something karmic related to the energy of that planet at 29 degrees. And we've got a lot going on at 29 degrees of different signs throughout 2024, 25, 26, as these slow moving outer planets are all leaving a sign and moving into the next one as they cross backwards and forwards across the 29-degree point of these different signs. So there's a lot shifting. And it gets intense at these 29 degrees. It's intense.
I think over the next, well, now and the next year or two, it's the time that people have been waiting for.
It
They
is.
have this sense that I was born for this time to watch this happen, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is it. We're living history now. We're
Yep.
we're going through it all.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day, and I remember, way back in the 80s, even the 70s, just aware there were so many people talking about earth changes and the great shift and cosmic awakenings, and there's going to be floods and tidal waves and, all of this. And this is it. Here we are. It's here. We're right in it.
Yeah.
And it's a pivotal time on planet Earth, and the next 2 years are going to be super interesting, supercharged with change. And some of the change can actually be extremely positive in the sense of like sudden radical awakening and shifts of consciousness. But, worldly systems and structures aren't going to be too happy about that. So they're going to be pulling out everything they've got.
Yeah.
So it's a very strong time. So Pluto making his last, and so for each of us individually, Capricorn's a sign of structure. Now, all the beautiful Capricorns I know, I'm not dissing the sign. Every sign has its shadow. The positive qualities of Capricorn, and hopefully we've all developed more of that in these recent years, is a stronger inner sense of our own integrity and inner authority and our inner strength to be very clear about what I know is right and wrong and how I live that and respond to that. Like that's Capricorn at its best, a very strong sense of integrity.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I have pared myself down.
Yes.
Can I say it like that? To the most important path in my life, and it's become much stronger to stay on that, even though my Gemini wants to go over here and explore all this. But I just beforehand I knew why I was here, but now I'm sort of I know why I'm here on planet Earth, and I'm going to keep doing it.
That's right.
And it'll be more powerful.
Exactly. So there's a clarity, isn't there? And you're right. And that's Pluto's job. It's like he keeps stripping back. It's not that, it's not that, it's not that. And we're left with, and I often think Capricorn, at its highest is like a crystal. You just showed us those beautiful crystals. A crystal that through great pressure, or a diamond through great pressure, has crystallized into this thing of such purity and clarity. And that's the Capricorn path.
Yep.
And all evolved Capricorns know this. It's a tough gig. It's a tough path. But that's the offer at the end of the journey, And that's why so many of the great gurus and enlightened masters of times gone past and still current, in my experience, because I've looked into this, they usually have a lot of Capricorn going on in their chart. Like they've done the hard yards over many lifetimes. So it's a complex, interesting sign, a very important sign.
And it's very it's enduring and long lasting. It's just so and it has that stick-to-itiveness, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
People who are like that and have strong Capricorn placements, they just stick to it until the job's done.
They do. They just hang in there.
And because they do, they often become masters at what they do, like you were saying. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And then it becomes a sign of tremendous wisdom that's been earned. It's not just borrowed because you read it somewhere in a book. The wisdom of Capricorn is absolutely earned through the trials and tribulations of life, and actually of many lives. So those wise elders who I have great respect for in terms of the world stage, and there is a few of them, so often they have quite a lot of Capricorn in them. And you can see it, there's this integrity and clarity and focus. But, Pluto's job has been to clean out all the crap. And and to bring us all in our own particular way to, you know, a greater sense of integrity and clarity and purpose. You know, what you said, you know, I'm clear about why I'm
Yeah.
here.
And you get focused about it too.
Absolutely. And committed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. It's been a really intense process, but it's so important before we go through this shift into this other energy of the Aquarius and other planets changing sign. Tell you, next year is going to be a whopper.
You know, I'm so glad that you said it the way that you did, because people have often said to me, as a therapist, you know, people say, I feel a bit lost. I don't know what my purpose is, what I'm doing, etc., etc. And I've always given them the advice, well, if you don't know what you should do you know what you don't want to do? You know,
Yeah.
and that's that paring down, isn't it? That
Yes, it
what you're
is.
saying, that Pluto is just pushing it away, saying, well, I know I don't want to do that. And I know I don't.
That's right.
Okay, so that narrows the path, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Gives you fewer options to create confusion. And so often our purpose is aligned with what comes naturally to us and actually what we tend to enjoy the most too.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's just what's natural.
yeah.
So yeah, that's going on, and you know that this will come up over the next few sessions with us as well, of course, because Pluto, and you know, a lot is going on in the world in relation to this. It's pretty strong. The other one more comment about this too, of course, Capricorn as an earth sign does relate to the earth, pardon me, herself, and there's a lot going on with earth movements and earth changes and extreme weather, which is a combination of, I think, just the times, and this was destined to happen, but there are also other reasons why it's being exacerbated and made more extreme. So that's part of all of this as well. So there's a great clearing and cleansing going on, particularly now while Pluto does this final purge through the last bit of Capricorn.
Well,
So
I
go
also
on.
wanted to say too, like we were having this chat on the last weekend about how people think that, oh, okay, so Pluto's gone through Capricorn, now it's gone into Aquarius, yippee. Well, it has its own problems too, doesn't it?
You bet. Yeah. Pluto will bring out the shadow of every sign that it goes through
Yeah,
over a number of years.
we
That's
will
it.
see.
Absolutely. So, you know, yes, Aquarius, you know, we can go all love and light and consciousness and humanity, and we do, and it's true,
Yes.
but there's also a shadow.
Yeah,
So we'll be talking a lot about that in the future
we will
episodes.
be.
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's just true. You know, astrology, the system of astrology, you know, we can look at any planet and any sign, and they're multi-layered. And a part of it is shadow energy of every planet, even Venus, you know, beautiful Venus, the love light, you know, she has a shadow. It's not a big one, but she has a shadow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mercury goes into Scorpio on October the 14th. So by the time people see this, that will have happened. And so our thinking mind, our mental processes will take a deeper dive into, you know, undercurrents. And, you know, when planets move into the water signs, and there's a lot going on in the water signs at the moment, people will often feel more tired. They feel a bit sluggish. They feel like they're kind of wading through like emotional stuff, trying to process things. So Mercury will take us deeper for a few weeks. On the 17th, we have the full moon. And that will be at 24 degrees of Aries, opposite the sun at 24 degrees of Libra. Now, it's a pretty interesting full moon, as you're aware, because it will be making an exact conjunction with Eris, Eris. And she's, we could call her a new planet in the sense that, you know, only discovered in the last couple of decades. And one of these newer planets out in the Kuiper belt, and a smaller body, but out beyond Pluto and Neptune. Some people call them the trans-Neptunians. And Eris is in the mythology regarded as a troublemaker. But her job is to expose uncomfortable truths. And in doing so, a lot of stuff is stirred up and things can get a bit chaotic. It was said in the mythology that through certain actions that she did to expose certain things, it set in motion the Trojan War, but she didn't herself cause it. She simply set the ripples in motion, and other people's bad behavior basically set that in motion, as a response of what she did.
As if we need more energy with this super full moon. I know.
I know. So, we can think of her as a bit of a whistleblower, and, she's kind of sounding the alarm and going, you need to pay attention to this.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's been in Aries the whole of the last century. She moves very slowly, so that takes her along. She will move into Taurus. I forget the year, but I don't know, maybe in the 2030s, I think. I can't remember exactly.
Okay. Oh, that really is slow.
Oh, yeah. The
Mm.
whole of the last century, she was in Aries.
Yeah.
So we all have Eris in Aries somewhere in our chart. But she's strong. She's quite a sort of warrior archetype in Aries. And also making a conjunction with Chiron at 21 degrees of Aries. So this Chiron-Eris conjunction has been going on for the last year or two as they kind of do their retrograde dance across each other. So Chiron is the wounded healer archetype and always highlights the ways certain energies of that sign are expressed as wounds. And the wound of Aries, you could think of that as the wounded warrior, the wounded masculine, the emasculated masculine, issues around fear, issues to do with war and aggression and so on, and that something needs deep healing here. I often think of returned soldiers, from in America and Australia, around the world, from the Middle East, from Vietnam, totally traumatized. I mean, the soldiers in World War One coming back with what they then call shell shock, which is, I think, is a better name. It's a more honest name than PTSD.
Yes.
They're basically destroyed, many of them. Their lives are destroyed. And so this is a Chiron and Aries issue, and all these things are still going on. The abomination that is war is currently waging, and this is going to be highlighted, I think, with this Chiron full moon Eris conjunction, which also happens to be square to Mars, the warrior planet which rules Aries.
Yes.
It's also square to Pluto, the last degree of Capricorn.
It's powerful.
Really powerful.
Yes.
It's opposite the sun at 24 of Libra, endeavoring to bring in some kind of harmony into this mix.
So is that a grand cross?
It is.
Sun and Moon, Mars and Pluto. Yes.
Yeah, it is absolutely a grand cross in across Aries to Libra.
Yeah.
And across Capricorn to Cancer. So that's a grand cross or a grand square in what we call the cardinal signs.
So
and the cardinal signs are signs of action and energy.
Yeah. So that sort of says to me deep underlying currents.
Yes.
Really powerful, deep underlying currents.
Absolutely.
Affecting our psyche, basically.
Yes. It's very intense. It's very strong. Things are going to happen. Full moons, everything is heightened anyway.
Yeah. Volatile, emotionally
very.
challenged. Yeah.
And as Mars moves forward, so it'll be at 22, almost 23 degrees on the day of the full moon. I'm just looking. There it is. On November the 3rd, which is 2 days before the US election, Mars will have moved forward to 29 degrees of Cancer and will make an exact opposition to Pluto at the very end of Capricorn. So the US election, which is such an extremely important pivotal one, if it even goes ahead, as many question whether it will, but we shall see. This election is going to occur with an exact opposition between Mars and Pluto, which that particular combination, anyone with a Mars-Pluto combination in their chart, and I have one, so I know,
Aha.
Like it doesn't get more potent. That's an intense combination of energies.
Yeah.
And remember, Mars is the old ruler of both Aries and Scorpio. And Pluto
Mm.
rules Scorpio. So they have a strong connection anyway,
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah. And that Mars energy I mean, it's just short, sharp, knee-jerk reactions, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's a
can be.
time to tame our temper, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Because that when it's in Scorpio or it's got a contact with Pluto, there's again this sense of pressure builds and builds and builds.
Mm.
And if we're not wise and experienced enough to know that we need regular release of energy and expression of energy, at some point it's going to explode
Mm.
and
Mm.
erupt like a
Mm.
volcano.
Yeah.
So the wise use of this energy is to be aware of it and to have regular outlets for it, like moving our energy, expressing it as best we can in constructive ways before it gets to the explosion point. We
Yeah.
just can't hold on to it anymore.
Yeah. No, I think
But
that,
the world feels like it's on the edge, doesn't it?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, every day I get up and think, oh, well, I've got someone in the house who gives me the bad news every morning, So I think, oh, what's happened overnight now? But it's true because you think, oh, well, something will have happened, something,
Yeah.
we not unexpected. This is the other thing. I've
Mm.
gotten so used, and I think a lot of other people just gotten so used to living on the precipice,
Yeah,
precipice of imminent something or other. You
that's
can
right.
fill in the blanks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is now. It's part of this big process. And so, we've all got to find our ways to diffuse some of that as best we can. And for me, it's doing simple, practical things, nature, grounding, earthing, but also having some fun sometimes and finding things that make us laugh, even if it's as mundane as watching funny videos
Yeah.
every now and then, just to give ourselves a break from the intensity of it all.
Thank goodness people do that on social media because I love looking at reels about cats.
I know. And I know I posted
Horses.
something this morning about, funny phone messages from autocorrect.
Yes.
And I'm just laughing out loud. They're hilarious, but it's
Yeah.
such a release from
Mm. Mm.
the, for many people that there's carrying deep anxiety about the state of the world.
Oh yeah, I do. I carry it all
Yeah.
the time. I try not. That's why I try not to bring it up in conversations much now because it's not only a trigger for me, but I know it's a trigger for other people.
Yes.
And there's these things have happened. Some of it's history, some of it's the future. There's not much that you can do at a grassroots level, and you've got to trust that there are people in power who can do something. Like a lot of it is out of the person in the street's hands.
I think it is on
On a material level.
a material level. Energetically, we can
Yeah.
all contribute.
Yes, that's
And that's very real. But I agree on an actual level, there's so many big things at play that we're not involved in,
yeah,
behind the scenes.
yes,
But energetically, and I think that's where we're going. We're going into higher dimensions of consciousnness where it's all energetic.
yeah.
So there's a huge shift in that. So I think we have to keep practicing that.
Well, I also think with that this is one of the things with the age of Aquarius is that we watch that we don't get so involved in the energetic level that we forget there is a material reality. We've got to keep it balanced. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just we can sort of understand that there's a shift in consciousness and that's great, but not everyone's going to do it either.
Yeah.
There's still going to be some problems.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to continue to unfold, in the coming years and decades.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Um,
can I just say with that
yeah,
that full moon in Aries though, and all that grand cross with the Sun, Moon, Mars, and Pluto, isn't there always also a trine with Mars, Venus, and Neptune, which might soften the impact of that?
there is.
Mm-hmm.
There absolutely is. So Neptune's at 27 of Pisces, making trine to Mars at 22. This is at the full moon. But still Mars will keep moving through those last degrees and it will remain in the trine aspect to Neptune, and also trining Venus, which is coming to the end of Scorpio. So that's much more of a, water is a soothing element mostly. I mean, there's a lot of feelings. We can feel like emotionally overwhelmed or emotionally exhausted and spent. That's true, but it is a soothing, like we know how much better we feel when we get to bodies of water and get time to just unwind by the sea or by a lake or sit next to a river and just stare at the water. I mean, it's so calming and soothing and healing.
Well, just if you've had a really rough day and you have a shower, it's just like,
That's right.
Just washing that off,
That's right. I mean, I have a funny little bath here. It's the one thing I miss about this place. It's great where I'm living. I'm very grateful for it. Funny little half bath. And I really miss having a big bath. But I still get in that bath and get my body in water, with some Epsom salts and some lavender or something, because even though I can't fully immerse myself, I still feel the benefit of just getting myself in the water as best I can. Yeah.
And that Venus energy is soft, isn't it?
That's right.
Very soft.
Yeah. So just on an Aries full moon, our fiery energy will be up. People might be experiencing challenging conflicts in relationship dynamics or on the home front. Mars is in Cancer. There might be a lot going on, but it can also, cardinal signs, what they're great for is they get things moving forward. They push something forward. If you think of all the cardinal people, of those 4 signs, they make things happen.
They do, yes.
And an Aries full moon can do that for better or worse. It can press the button and cause a cataclysmic war, but it can also make things happen and have forward momentum in a really positive way as well. So I think that's worth, being aware of, like what might have been in play for a while and gotten a bit stuck and bogged down. This could be a time when suddenly it's like, okay, we're moving now.
Yeah, they're great project managers, aren't they?
Yeah.
You just get it done.
Just get going. That's right.
And do it now.
Right now. Oh, yeah, we're not waiting.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, a lovely thing's about to come in. You'll be happy to note this one. You've probably already spotted it. On October the 18th, the day after the full moon, Venus goes into Sagittarius.
Yay.
Now, that's a lovely, lovely transit. She'll be in Sag for 3.5 weeks, something like that. She moves into Sag in the morning, 5:30 a.m. our time, Brisbane time. And this is a wonderful signature of just enjoyment, expansion, taking a few little trips. I mean, great time for travel if you want to travel, or it could be just like, I think I'm going to go down the coast for the day. Damn it, I've been working really hard. I'm over it.
Yes.
Let's go to the beach. It can be as simple as that, but that can be just what's needed.
Yes, and it's lighter, it's fun. And it's, Venus is coming out of Scorpio, which is a completely different energy, even going into Sag. So, I mean, that Venus energy can be quite heavy. It's a bit possessive, actually, in relationships.
In Scorpio, yeah.
Sorry, I meant Scorpio. But going into Sag, Venus going into Sag, your relationships can be much more open and honest and expansive in this case.
That's right.
And, I'm a Sun in Sag. Sagittarius is an open book. Ask me anything,
Yeah.
There's no secrets. It's you see what you get, it's just easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it is easier, isn't it, when you just say it like it is.
There's no secrets here.
Right. Then you don't have to try and remember what you said.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just the way it is. Yeah.
The other thing about Venus and Sag is she can be a party girl. She likes to have fun. So this can be just as part of what I was saying before about we need to find the pleasure and enjoyment in life. It is so important, not only for our own emotional and mental well-being, but for the general energetic field. Like, I'm a great believer that when we're happy and laughing and in enjoyment, that energy, particularly if we're with other people, that energy ripples out into the field and lifts everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's get that on over the next few weeks.
Well, I was just thinking some people might get a travel bug then, because
Yeah.
Sag loves travel, but they might even love it more.
That's right. Great time for a holiday, even if it's for a few days.
Yeah. And I think it's also it's a time when you sort of feel like you want something more or bigger, more variety or something
Yeah.
bigger or more freedom,
Yeah.
which is usually obtained with money, which Venus can represent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. So money might start flowing,
Yeah.
for some, or you get a new inspiration for something. It can also be, for some, it might be you start meeting some interesting new people,
Mm.
perhaps even a love interest, like Venus is the heart. And
Mm.
in Sagittarius, she wants to express and be very open and kind of forthright in her expression of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really nice.
That is
Um,
marking that one in my diary.
good. Yeah, yeah. So October the 23rd,
Mm.
while Pluto's still at the very end of Capricorn, the Sun will move to 29 degrees of Libra, making a square to Pluto on that day. But later, and that's very early in the morning,
Yeah.
still in the morning, then the Sun will move into Scorpio.
Yeah. Again,
This happens every time this year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we sort of, because I know that Scorpio, like Pluto, it loves the more mysterious aspects of life. The esoteric, the taboo things. Don't look at that, don't do that, or some. Oh, I'm thinking suddenly I'm getting a vision of Ouija boards.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yes, channeling, Aunt Mary or whoever, people are just, it's a time when we just drop in a lot deeper. I've noticed this every year. I feel that shift at the Scorpio time of year. Our energy levels may drop a little bit. Remember, you've got Venus and Sagittarius in the background. That's helpful
Mm.
in terms of a feeling uplifted. But it's a deep time when the Sun goes through Scorpio. It can also be a time of year when we find ourselves wanting to shed again.
Mm.
Scorpio is all death and rebirth. What needs to die? What needs to be released? What's coming to an end?
Yes. Very.
It's
Yeah.
a time of year when, it's interesting. I've never done a real survey. I've just noticed a
Mm.
lot of souls leave. It could be someone who's just, in their 80s or 90s and Sun comes into Scorpio. It's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also it links to Scorpio links to toxicity, doesn't it? Toxins because it's bringing things to the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time for cleansing,
Mm.
just cleaning up the diet and so on, being aware of those issues. Absolutely.
I wonder if we'll see any more news reports about anything criminal or underhanded like fraud, extortion, blackmail, that sort of stuff.
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Things coming out of the shadows,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
the monsters, coming up out of the basement. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the sun, because the sun is light, isn't it?
Yes.
So the sun, I often have this image of when the sun goes into Scorpio, it's like the light goes down into the underworld or into the basement and shines its light into that area
Yeah.
of our own unconscious. So it's both individual, but it's also in the collective field.
Yeah.
So what's being revealed, you know?
It's like cleaning out your drains. You get rid of that.
Yes, exactly.
Was that down there?
Exactly. And so people can literally suddenly find they're having plumbing issues.
Yes.
Like these things often play out so literally.
Yes, I know. And God, what was that down there? Was that a big lizard or a snake or something?
Exactly.
Jeez,
That's right.
jeez.
Scorpions and snakes and spiders and bites and toxins and plumbing and
Oh gosh.
yeah, all that stuff. That's all part of the Scorpio arena. And of course, issues around sex and sexuality and so on. But yeah, it's a sign at that higher level and expression. It's very much about the esoteric and the life mysteries.
mm.
And so, that whole issue of near-death experiences, we suddenly might be noticing that while people are talking about it more all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Because the
Yes.
sun's gone into Scorpio.
Mm.
Yeah. Because that's, I think that I'm noticing that a hell of a lot more. Like it seems to be really coming forward. Do you find that?
Yes, I've actually just secured a speaker for our meeting next week who's had close encounters but also near-death experience. So yes.
Yes, there you go.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or these mysterious experiences.
These mysterious experiences. That's
Mm.
right. And you see, the thing about Scorpio, very often in the past, but still, people have felt they have to keep these dark secrets to themselves.
Yeah.
But
Living.
with the sun in Scorpio, the point is to bring them out into the light. And that's where the
Mm.
healing and the real healing and the
Mm.
transformation happens. Pretty much every healer that I've ever known, healer and people who work deeply with other people in therapy, psychology, healing, they always have Scorpio in their chart.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Mm.
It's part of the territory. So that's a great thing that can happen while the sun goes through Scorpio. We can be doing some deep healing work.
Mm.
Mm.
Interesting.
Because I
Mm.
know people get scared when you mention Scorpio and they're like, oh no, but it's an amazing sign. It really is. It's complex, so it's got many levels to it.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing I know a few Scorpios, and they're very intense.
Very
Think that's
intense.
what people find hard to deal with because it can come across as a little bit, oh, scary, you know.
Yeah, it's very intense. It
Yeah, but
is
if you can step up to it, you'll get to know really interesting people.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely so. Um, let's see now. October the 28th, Venus in Sagittarius will make a square to Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
which will be at 12 degrees of Pisces. So Venus will be at 12. So that could just be a day or two when people are perhaps dealing with some relationship issues. They might be sort of working through some stuff in relationships, or they're wanting to go out and have fun and party, but something happens that says, actually, no, you can't. Your child's sick and you have to stay home and look up. I'm just being very basic here, but it can feel like that. Like Saturn can feel a bit like a wet blanket to Venus in Sagittarius that wants
Yeah.
to, enjoy. Or it could be just you can have enjoyment, but a certain level of responsibility is going to be required in that situation. So it's
Yeah.
not just kind of a wild free for all.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, Saturn tempers it, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it does. Yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
very much.
And yeah, I mean, that's right. Sagittarius doesn't want to be bound by any kind of limitations.
Well, I'm very sensitive to anything that hampers me. I
Yes,
can feel that sense of being hampered and like, oh
yes,
God, roll the eyes and with the,
yes.
you know.
Restrictions. I don't like it. I don't want it.
I know, yes, but
Yeah,
sometimes and often with most people, we have times like that in our life, don't we?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because life is
Yeah,
not smooth sailing.
yeah. November the 1st brings the Scorpio new moon. And the sun
Mm,
and the moon will be at 9 degrees of Scorpio, making trine to Saturn in Pisces. So that's a very deep, and we know at the new moon, we call it the dark of the moon. For those 2 or 3 nights, there's no moon visible in the sky. So when it's a new moon in Scorpio, it's deeply dark energetically.
mm,
We're down in a very deep, deep place. And the dark can be both scary, but it can also be a place of deep nourishment and rest. If we
yeah.
can really work with that energy and just really take some time to drop right in, it can be very, very beneficial, actually.
Oh, well, that'll be nice if I can have a good night's sleep that night.
Be wonderful. I
Yes.
tell you, I've known, because I've had Scorpios in my family from childhood and still, I tell you, Scorpios, in my experience, are the most incredible sleepers.
Mm.
They just go, it's like they're dead. They just go into this deep, 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 deep sleep. And it takes them, from what I've observed, often quite a long time to emerge from sleep. Like, you can't just rush at them. You've got to give them time to
Yes.
come out of that,
Yes. I know exactly what that's like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Whereas, some of us are maybe lighter sleepers, many of us go through those deep, deep stages of sleep, but Scorpios seem to just go right in there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Fascinating.
So that's to the next new moon, and just a couple of snippets about, coming up.
Mhm.
Saturn will turn direct on November the 16th. That always feels I always get a sense of, oh, okay, that's starting to feel a bit easier as Saturn
Yeah.
starts to move forward. And as we know, on November the 20th, Pluto will leave Capricorn. And even though Aquarius has a shadow, I think it deserves to be celebrated.
Mm.
Pluto leaving Capricorn deserves to be celebrated
Mm. What's that? The 20th, is it?
on the 20th.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there's a meme that every now and then pops up on social media, and it says, I survived Pluto in Capricorn.
Yeah.
Mind you, not everybody did, but
No.
I think, yeah, surviving Pluto in Capricorn deserves celebrating,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's been heavy.
Well, as we often were saying when in earlier on, we were saying it was like we're on the what was it? The cosmic rack.
Rack. That's
Yes.
right.
We've been on the cosmic rack.
Yes.
We have been stretched and pummeled and
Yes.
things pulled out of place. We've been ripped apart.
Absolutely.
We've all had an emotional near-death experience. Some people have
Yes.
had physical near-death experiences.
Yes.
Some people have committed suicide, sadly.
Yes.
It was just too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, cosmic rack, definitely. Maybe we can just, as Pluto goes into Aquarius, we can just release that.
Yeah. And I think it'd be worth looking back and acknowledging the positive things that have happened for us all, and then to celebrate Aquarius. And yeah, I'm all for celebrating all the positive qualities of Aquarius, and it is going to be amazing and an incredible shift,
Yeah.
fundamentally in a very positive way, but we also need to be aware of, the challenges that will come with that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Very interesting.
So yeah, so November is significant because Mars will go into Leo, and then it's going to turn retrograde later and go back into Cancer, but Saturn will turn direct and Pluto will go into Aquarius. So there's lots still to come. Next year is going to be quite phenomenal and very important.
We'll have a lot to talk about next year.
Yes, and I'm going to be doing a 3-hour Zoom online presentation of all the transits of 2025. So if anyone's interested in that, they can
Yeah.
contact me. That'll be on Zoom I think it's the 3rd or 4th of December, something like that.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Ah,
So that's it.
we'll go, oh, we made it.
We
Yes.
made it.
Yes.
Mind you, we're not there yet. So
No, we're not. Don't count your chickens before they hatch.
exactly.
Oh, well, thank you, Babula. It's a lot of information, isn't it? It's a lot, um, more than information. It's a lot of, I can already feel the undercurrents of everything shifting and moving.
Yeah,
From, Pluto going to Aquarius all through next year. I know that there are various signs changing,
that's right.
various planets changing signs, sorry.
Yeah,
And that's going to be a doozy. I'm wondering now where the heck we're going to be at the end of next year.
I know.
It's like, and I've heard some astrologers say next year is going to be bigger than 2020,
Yeah,
than what it was with the pandemic.
I think so. I think 2020 was sort of the like this pivotal point that set all of this in motion.
Yes.
but leading up to 2025 and into 2026 as well. I feel fundamentally very, very positive about it, but I'm not being Pollyanna about it. I also understand there'll be many challenges. But as you said earlier, Cheryl, you know, we've been waiting for this. And this was the strongest response I had in 2020 when everything started to happen. Was my strongest response very early on was, finally, at last, here we are. It's come.
Yeah.
Now this can all start moving forward.
That's what I felt too. I felt like, buckle up, people. We're off.
Here we go.
You know, we're on it.
Yeah.
And I just always had this image of riding the wave.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to ride the wave rather than get sucked down in the rip of it all, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, thank you once again.
My pleasure.
We will be back in a couple of weeks to talk about the next lunar cycle. So if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like it, share with your friends, subscribe so you get the next notification of the next episode. And we will see you very, very soon.
Bye, everyone.
So bye for now.